bread, rice, potatoes. If you have high blood sugar, somebody has probably told you those three foods are off the table for good. I'm Dr. Richard Peterson, and after 15 years of internal medicine, I want to tell you that advice is mostly wrong. To be fair, there's a grain of truth in it. Bread, rice, and potatoes do raise your blood sugar. That part is real, but here's what almost no one explains. How you eat that potato matters far more than whether you eat it at all. I can take one baked potato, hand it to two people, have them eat it two different ways, and watch one of them spike hard while the other barely moves. Same food, same amount, completely different blood sugar. The reason your own doctor never walked you through this is simple. There is no way to teach a person how to eat in a 12-minute appointment, so you got the short version. Cut the carbs. Before you click away thinking this is another just give up bread video, give me 2 minutes because it's the opposite of that. By the end, you'll have 4 simple changes that let you keep eating the foods you love while flattening the spike that's quietly wearing your body down. You won't need willpower and you won't have to give up dinner. You just do what you already do a little differently. And look, I've spent years watching people in my office try to white-knuckle their way off carbs entirely, and almost no one lasts. So a while back, I took everything I tell my own patients about staying strong and steady after 60 and put it into one simple plan. It's already helped thousands of people eat normally again without riding the blood sugar roller coaster. If you want it, the link is right there on your screen. You don't have to write anything down. It's all in one place. Now let me show you what's actually happening when your sugar spikes. Because once you see it, the 4 changes are going to make perfect sense. When you eat a starch, your body breaks it down into glucose, and that glucose pours into your blood. Eat it the usual way, and it pours in fast. That sharp, fast rise is what I'm going to call the spike. And the spike is the real problem here. The bread is just what sets it off. And every time you spike, your pancreas has to slam out a big dose of insulin to clean it up. Do that 3 times a day, year after year, and the system wears out. Your cells stop listening to insulin. That's insulin resistance. And the pancreas, the organ making all that insulin, slowly burns out from the overtime. That is the road that turns a little high blood sugar into full diabetes. So the whole game is flattening that curve. Same food, same plate, but a gentle hill instead of a cliff. And there are only 4 places you can step in to do it. You can slow how fast the carb breaks down. You can slow how fast it leaves your stomach. You can burn some of it off before it ever piles up. And you can eat it when your body is actually able to handle it. Slow the breakdown. Slow it out. Burn it off. Time it right. 4 levers. We're going to pull all 4. I want you to keep one person in mind while I do this. I'll call him Walter, 64. Retired electrician, the kind of man who's eaten a sandwich for lunch every day of his adult life. His doctor told him his A1C was creeping up, and he needed to drop the bread, the rice, all of it. Walter tried, lasted about 3 weeks, felt miserable, and went right back. He came to me convinced he'd failed. He hadn't. He'd just been handed the hardest possible version of the fix. Hold on to Walter. I'll tell you where he ended up. One thing before we start, and it matters. If you take insulin or any medication that lowers your blood sugar, these 4 changes can work quickly, and that means your numbers can drop lower than you're used to. That's a good result, but it's something your doctor has to know about because your dose may need to come down as your meals improve. So don't keep taking the same dose blindly while you change everything else. Tell your doctor what you're doing. All of this is safe to learn and safe to start. Just loop your doctor in if you're on medication. Lever number 1, slow the breakdown. And this is the one almost nobody knows about. So stay with me because this first trick you can do tonight with food already in your kitchen. There's a special kind of starch called resistant starch. The name tells you what it does. Your digestive enzymes try to break it down into glucose, and they can't. They resist it. So instead of flooding your blood with sugar, that starch travels all the way down to your large intestine where the bacteria in your gut ferment it. And when they do, they produce compounds called short-chain fatty acids, things like butyrate that actually improve your insulin sensitivity and calm inflammation. So resistant starch doesn't just dodge the spike, it feeds the part of you that handles sugar better. And this is the trick almost nobody knows about. You can take an ordinary starch that would normally spike you, and you can turn some of it into resistant starch yourself in your own fridge. You cook your rice or your potatoes or your pasta. Then you cool it in the refrigerator. Then you reheat it before you eat. That cooling step matters. When cooked starch chills, part of it recrystallizes into that resistant form, and it holds that form even after you warm it back up. Diabetes researchers have measured this. Rice and potatoes cooled for about a day and then reheated produced a noticeably lower blood sugar and insulin response than the same food eaten fresh and hot. Same rice. You just put it through a cold night first. So Walter didn't give up his potatoes. He started making them the day before, leaving them in the fridge and warming them up at dinner. Day-old rice reheated. Pasta salad instead of hot pasta. Tastes nearly the same, and his after-dinner numbers came down. That's lever 1 already working. And if you want resistant starch without the cooling routine, some foods are just naturally loaded with it. Beans, lentils, peas, whole grains like oats and barley. Add a scoop of beans to the plate and you've done the same job. Lever number 2. Slow it out of the stomach. And this one is completely free because it works no matter what's on your plate. It's all about the order you eat in. Almost nobody eats a carb by itself. You eat the bread with the meal, the rice with the dinner. And what you eat alongside that carb, and crucially, what you eat before it changes the whole response. Here's the rule, and it's almost too simple. Eat your carbs last. Vegetables first. Protein next. Bread, rice, potato last. The reason is simple. When food leaves your stomach into your intestines, that's where the glucose gets absorbed. If you lead with vegetables and protein, your stomach empties slower and releases everything in a slow, even trickle instead of a dump. So the exact same rice gets absorbed gradually instead of all at once. Researchers at Weill Cornell tested this directly in people with type 2 diabetes. When they ate their vegetables and protein first and saved the carbs for last, their glucose spike dropped by about 40% and their insulin response dropped about 30%. They changed nothing on the plate except the order. This matters most in restaurants where they bring you bread or chips the second you sit down on an empty stomach before the food even arrives. That's the worst possible time for it. So push the bread basket a little to the side. Eat your salad and your protein, and then if you still want the bread, have it. A Japanese team using continuous glucose monitors, the little sensors that read your sugar minute by minute, found the same thing with rice eaten last. A small change in sequence. A real change in the curve. Walter started eating the meat and salad first, and his sandwich open-faced at the end cost him nothing. While we're on what's around the carb, let me give you lever 2's other half. Never eat a naked carb. A naked carb is a starch eaten all alone, nothing with it, toast by itself. A bowl of white rice plain, juice on an empty stomach. That naked carb hits the hardest. Dress it, add protein, add a little fat, add something acidic, and you blunt the spike. A review of more than 150 feeding trials found that simply adding protein to a carb meal could cut the glucose rise by up to half in healthy adults. Fat helps too because it slows your stomach from emptying, which buys you that same gentle release. So rice with beans beats rice alone. A potato with a little olive oil or butter spikes you less than a plain one. Toast with eggs, not toast on its own. And then there's acid, which is the one people forget. A splash of vinegar, a squeeze of lemon, fermented foods on the side. Acid slows the enzymes that chop starch into sugar. And vinegar in particular has been shown to improve how your muscles pull in glucose and to quiet the sugar your own liver releases. A little vinegar on the salad you're eating before the bread is doing 2 jobs at once. Walter's wife started splashing vinegar in the bean salad. Small thing, it adds up. Lever number 3. Burn it off. This is the one I wish every patient over 60 would tattoo on their hand because it's that powerful and it takes 10 minutes. After you eat, go for an easy walk. Nothing strenuous. 10 minutes around the block, around the house, up and down the stairs while you clean up. The timing is everything. As soon as possible after the meal while that glucose is rising, not 2 hours later. In controlled trials, just a 10-minute walk right after eating measurably lowered people's blood sugar compared to sitting down. And the reason it works is a muscle most people have never heard of, the soleus. It's deep in your calf, running from just below the knee down to your heel. The soleus is a quiet workhorse. It's built mostly of slow-twitch fibers, the kind that keep going for a long time without tiring. And it can soak up an enormous amount of glucose straight out of your blood, and it can do it without needing much insulin at all. So when you walk after a meal, your calves open a back door and start pulling sugar out of your bloodstream before it ever has a chance to spike. You're burning the fuel right as it arrives. Sit on the couch instead, and it all piles up in your blood with nowhere to go. 10 minutes on your feet. That's the whole prescription. I have patients in their 70s who do nothing more than walk slowly around the grocery store after lunch, and their afternoon numbers look completely different from the days they sit straight down after eating. Quick pause here, because if these 4 levers are useful to you, the best thing you can do is hit subscribe and give this video a like. It genuinely helps me reach more people who've been told to just give up the foods they love. And I read the comments, so tell me down below how old you are and whether bread, rice, or potatoes is the one you can't imagine living without. It honestly shapes what I make next. Anyway, liver number 1 again, but the version that's about which carb you reach for in the first place. Choose the right carbs because not all of them behave the same, and the difference comes down to how finely they're ground. When grain gets milled into a fine, soft powder, white flour, the flour in white bread, in most cereal, in pastries, in crackers, your gut digests it almost instantly. It's already half broken down before it reaches you. That's the fast, hot spike. But take that same grain in its whole intact coarse form, steel-cut oats instead of instant, stone ground instead of white, and your body has to work to break it apart. It digests slowly. The glucose arrives slowly, and the curve stays flat and steady instead of spiking and crashing. Same grain. The grind decides the spike. And the thing that makes a whole grain behave is the fiber, which is the part the fine milling strips out. Fiber is the one carbohydrate you should never try to cut. It physically slows sugar absorption. It feeds those good gut bacteria, and for most people, the benefit is too large to skip. So when you do reach for bread or cereal, look for the words whole grain, and look for fiber on the label. The plainer and more processed the flour, the faster it hits you. Walter swapped his soft white sandwich bread for a dense, seedy whole grain loaf. Same sandwich, slower curve. Lever number 4, time it right. Because it turns out the clock on the wall changes how your body handles the exact same meal. Your ability to process glucose follows a daily rhythm. Early in the day, your body is good at it. Late at night, it's bad at it. The very same plate of food will spike you higher at 10 at night than it would at noon, even if it isn't loaded with carbs. Part of the reason is a hormone called melatonin, the one that rises in the evening to make you sleepy. Melatonin also tells your pancreas to ease off on insulin. So late at night, you've got a double problem. Less insulin coming out, and cells that are already sluggish. Less insulin means more sugar left sitting in your blood overnight. So the fix is just as simple as it sounds. Eat earlier. Make your dinner the meal you finish well before bed. I tell my patients to aim for their last bite at least 3 hours before they lie down. That alone, changing nothing about the food, flattens the overnight curve. The later the plate, the higher the spike. Move the plate earlier, and you've pulled lever 4. This is the one Walter fought me on the hardest because he loved his bowl of cereal in front of the television at night. We moved that same bowl to the middle of the afternoon, and his fasting number, the one he checks before breakfast, started dropping inside of 2 weeks. So let me tell you where Walter landed. He never gave up a single food he loved. He cooled and reheated his starches. He ate his carbs last. He stopped eating them naked. He walked 10 minutes after dinner. He switched to whole grain bread, and he quit the late night snacking. None of it was a diet. When he came back, his A1C had come down from 7.4 to 6.8, and the spikes that used to rocket past 200 after lunch were settling in the low 150s. I want to be honest with you about that. His diabetes didn't vanish. He didn't reverse anything overnight. But he stopped the slide. He got off the roller coaster. And he did it while still eating his sandwich. That's the win that actually lasts because it's one he can live with. And if you only have the energy to change one thing, make it the walk. 10 minutes after your biggest meal of the day moves the needle more than almost anything else on this list. And it cost you nothing but your shoes. So here's what to do at your very next meal. 1. Put the vegetables and protein in first and save the bread, rice, or potato for last. 2. Don't let that carb go out naked. Give it some protein, a little fat, a splash of vinegar or lemon. 3. The moment you're done, get up and walk for 10 minutes. 4. When you can cook your rice or potatoes the day before, chill them and reheat them. 5. Reach for the whole grain, higher fiber version over the soft white one. And 6. Eat your dinner earlier with your last bite at least 3 hours before bed. That's it. No foods banned. A flatter curve in 6 small steps. If this helped you see your meals differently, do me a favor and subscribe so you don't lose the channel. Give the video a like and leave a comment telling me which of these 6 you're going to try first. I read everyone. Thanks for spending this time with me. Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you.